Well, good morning, everybody. It's me, Mitch. Sometimes you just wake up and you decide you want steak and eggs for your first meal. And you haven't thought out a steak. So what we're going to do today, besides make some eggs, is take a steak out of the freezer, make it from frozen in the air fryer, using the thermometer. And while that's cooking, we'll have plenty of time to cook our eggs and do all that, because it's going to take probably at least a half an hour or more for this thing to preheat and everything else. So I think what I'm going to do before I start doing anything, I'm going to remove the thermometer thing and I'm going to turn it on. And in order for it to sense the thermometer, it's got to be plugged in. So we will take the thermometer out of the holder, plug it in there, set it aside. We will say that we want to grill, and we do have the grill plate in there. We want to grill on high. Well, I guess when I'm using the thermometer, and rather than let it try to figure out how to cook it, I'm going to use the manual mode and just set the internal temperature. And I think that's the way to go, rather than trying to let this thing decide if it's medium rare. I know what the temperature is supposed to be. I'm going to cook this thing to 125 degrees internally, and then we'll let it rest. And it should be not raw, but medium rare. In fact, I'm going to cook it to 120, and we'll take a look at it after that. Okay, so then I'm just going to shut the lid, and I'm going to say start. And it's going to preheat now, and it's going to preheat for about 10 minutes. So while it's preheating, I'm going to see if I can't stick the thermometer in this steak. And I have a funny feeling that it's going to be too frozen. So the plan is to stick it in the microwave for a short period of time, just to see if I can soften it enough to stick the thermometer probe in it. Now, it may be that this thermometer probe is sharp enough and I can jam it in there. So, let's see. Let's see if I can stick the thermometer probe into this steak. I'll put it right here. All right, going in. I want to make sure I got it straight. Yeah, even though it's a little bit frozen, I can stick it in there. So good. So now we just leave that there. And in the meantime, I'm going to salt the steak. Get it out here so you can see it. I'm going to salt this steak on both sides. Flip her over. Normally I put the air fryer on my range hood, but under the range hood on the cooktop, but since I want to be cooking eggs too, I decided to just put it on the counter. And this will be a kind of a good test to see if it really is as smokeless as they say it is, because it won't be under the range hood. But I'll turn the range hood on, and should it make some smoke, I will turn this toward the back end towards the range hood and move it over just a little bit. But I'm going to cook my eggs right here on this burner. So it's preheating now. There's a progress bar going across, and as soon as it's done preheating, I'll be back. I put a nice little pat of butter in the pan, but I haven't turned the burner on yet. We're going to have to kind of guesstimate how long this steak is going to cook. And I think that the way I'm going to do this is that when I see the temperature, internal temperature of the steak, get up to 110 degrees, somewhere in that neighborhood where it's almost done. I know that I've got some resting to be figured in there. So with that, I'll probably cook my eggs then. I'd like it to all be done together. But for now, while we're waiting for this thing to preheat, you'll excuse me while I beat my eggs. Thank you. All right, it should be done preheating pretty soon. I see the progress bar going across. Steak's all ready. Got the thermometer in it. Been salted. I don't feel too much heat from around this thing. Nothing on the top. A little bit, there's a vent right back here where I feel some hot air coming out, blowing up that way. I feel some air venting down here on the sides as well, but no real steady stream or hard stream of hot air. So I don't see where it would be a problem setting this on a counter and not having to worry about exactly what's behind it with the heat. So far so good. Now this steak is a 16-ounce New York strip. It's about 1.25 inches thick. Pretty nice looking steak. Be interesting to see how long this takes to cook. If I sous vide it, it would have to sit in the sous vide bath for about 2 hours. If I seared it in a pan and finished it in the oven, I could probably do the whole process in less than 15 minutes. That would be the quickest way to do it. But not from frozen. So the key here is that we're taking a frozen steak that I decided I had to have today with my eggs instead of bacon. And we took it out of the freezer because I hadn't decided that yesterday. I decided that this morning. Add food, it says. Okay. Whoa, look at that. So we will add the food. Listen to that. Sizzled. And close the lid. And it is now cooking. All right, it says current temperature it's reading is 33 degrees and the target temp is set to 120. So we need to wait a while before I start my eggs, and we'll just let this thing do its thing. It is 10 to 11 right now when I put the steak in. Be curious to see just how long it takes to cook this thing from frozen and how well it comes out. Okay, it's been cooking for 16 or 17 minutes now. I flipped it over once at about 70 degrees. It's now 111 degrees internal. I didn't see any smoke at all, visible smoke coming out. But sitting out here on the counter, when I opened it up to flip it over, it did set off my smoke detector, even though there was no visible smoke. So I took it and I put it back on the cooktop. I don't know how necessary that is. At any rate, this thing is getting to 118, 119. and it says get food. So let's get the food. Doesn't look bad. Let me unplug the thermometer. Well, that's got nice grill marks on it. Interesting to see how it is. And now I'm just going to let it rest for a while. I'm going to unplug the air fryer. Close the lid and move it off the cooktop. It's not real hot on the outside. And we'll take the steak and transfer it to this cutting board right here and let it sit and rest on there while I wait for my pan to heat up for the eggs. Butter melt, which it is. And let them start to cook. Now all I'm going to need is a plate for my eggs, and so as not to create more dishes to watch, I'll just use the same plate that I used to transport the steak around. And now it's simply a matter of cooking the eggs. I also am at 10 after 11 now. I started the cook on the steak at 10 till 11. So after a 10-minute preheat, 20 minutes later, so a total of 30 minutes, half an hour. I haven't done a lot of work in that half hour. Mostly it was just waiting. I'm just waiting for the omelet to finish and the steak to rest. And that's not too bad. That's not too bad from a frozen steak. I'm sure that if it hadn't have been frozen, the cooking time in the Ninja probably would have been more like 10 or 12 minutes as opposed to closer to 20 minutes. But sometimes you just got to have a steak. So while the egg is finishing, let's take a look at this and see what it looks like inside. We took it off the heat at 120 degrees, which is more on the rare side of medium rare. Another 5 degrees would have made it a little less pink on the inside. It just so happens that that's the way that I like my steak, a little less pink. So time to flip my egg. Cooked in butter. That'll be done here in a very short time. Okay, so got my egg. I got my steak. My New York strip cooked from frozen. Let me see how it tastes. Tastes very good. It's definitely not a ribeye, but it's a New York strip. Makes a great breakfast. I like New York strips if I'm going to have them with eggs. It's more of a breakfast steak. I like a good ribeye for dinner. But this is delicious. It came out well. Uh, Seasoning is good. I'll take it. Very tasty. So there you have it. Made a steak and eggs breakfast from a frozen steak. So for now, take the rest of the day off and eat meat.